I want to do another tool take apart and review video. This obviously is not a new tool. This is my Ryobi Impact driver. Model this. This is the P234G. It's 18 volt impact driver. Had this for a few years. It's gotten some pretty hard use. Generally, I'm really happy with it. Works well. Doesn't quite have the torque of the Makitas that I've used, where my friends have, and it's a little heavier than those. So definitely not a premium tool, but like I said, as you can see, it's all dinged up and well used. It's been dropped a few times, no cracks. Keeps plugging away. So I'm curious to see if there's any wear or damage that I can see, particularly in the impact area. So I'm going to get this apart and see what it looks like inside. Torque 20, yep. Oh, so it was broken inside. So this piece is broken back there. I think I do remember that happening actually. This took a dive off a roof, and I remember the back being separated, but so that was broken. In here, nothing looks hot or melty. I have gotten this pretty hot. Driving big timber screws. That's the only time when I've really been limited or felt limited by the amount of torque this thing can put out. That's the switch. Made in China, as expected. Nicely soldered leads. Nice strapped down thermal paste. That's, yeah, not a huge MOSFET, but the motor, shock absorbers. Put those back in. Let's see. I guess this is all set to one part. Okay, there's the hammer and the anvil in there. So it looks perfectly fine despite all the hammering it's done. I don't see any rounded edges. There's some marks on it, but those I can't even feel anything. So yeah, a little bit of grease all flung out to the outside. So that's the business end. Just a whiff around on those corners, but really the amount of hammering. This is always amazing that these things can hammer for as much as they do and don't cause any don't end up breaking. There are those balls. You can see a little bit of shine in there. That's a ball bearing in a track, so there must be a big spring behind here pushing this up, and then one that binds up this turns and drops in and then kicks over past the cog, builds up some momentum and clacks in again. One interesting thing about this, so I was watching one of AVE's videos. He's talking about the harmonic tuning of one of these impact drivers, and I have a feeling this one could use some improvement, because I was running full out trying to get a bolt to come out and it wouldn't budge. But as soon as I backed off the speed just a touch, it popped free and broke loose. So I feel like at full speed, it has a weird clatter to it, which doesn't seem like it's effectively applying torque at full speed. So maybe Ryobi fixed that in one of the later ones. So if I turn them normally, that center shaft is turning with the outer ones. If I push down, now I turn and it's loose. And you can, I don't know if you can see my balls moving around. Anyways, so that's how the ratcheting mechanism, the impacting mechanism works. Not a whole lot to see in here, actually. Maybe I will try to see about getting this apart. It looks like there would be screws coming down through here. But to get to those screws, there's no room, so this would have to come out. And I don't know, for it to come out, I think this ring has to come out. Like I said, this is my impact driver that I use fairly often, so it doesn't have to get back together again. I suppose I could buy a new one, but I'd rather not buy a new one if I don't have to. Yeah, let's see, motor, any specs on the motor? I don't see any. Sucked in some sawdust. And that's the brush spring. And it's hard to see down in those little dark holes. But there's a fair amount of meat left on the brush, but I wonder what a new one looked like. Wonder how much of the brushes I've gone through, because they're obviously not replaceable. This is, if the brushes go, you buy a new one. So, yeah, so on the inside here it says PA6 GF30, so it'll be glass fiber reinforced. Let's see how she goes back together again. Let's see this guy. Yeah. I can't say that I recommend doing this, but I want to show you what it sounds like normal versus high speed. So that sounds fairly... That is it like... So not exactly the most linear speed, and it almost seems like it's got more torque before it kicks over to that high speed, or just kind of rattles. And but anyways, Ryobi Impact driver, well worth the money. Heck of a lot. If you're using a drill to put in screws, get one of these. It's just so much better. Less torque into your wrist, less the bits don't pop out as much, because particularly with Phillips, each time this lets go, it lets you reset back into the Phillips screw. It doesn't just walk its way out. Yeah, way better than a drill. I used a drill for the first couple years while I was working on my house, and then one of my friends was like, what the hell are you using a drill for? Get an impact driver. And I did, and don't regret it at all. So I have also used this with the 3/8 adapter, loosening bolts. Doesn't really work all that well as far as breaking things free. It does not have a lot of torque, break-free torque. But if you have a long thing you need to take out, it's the fastest way of doing it by far. Like I said, the only screws I've had difficulty driving with this are giant timber screws, and I have driven some pretty darn big screws with it without a problem, but just when you get like a 10-inch screw and you happen to hit a knot with it because you have no idea where you're putting the other end of it, this will just stall out and you'll have to get something bigger. Interestingly enough, the drills do seem like they'll actually have more torque as far as putting in a long screw into hardwood. But yeah, that's this thing. Don't regret it at all. Maybe not the best brand, Ryobi, but certainly works, does the job. Can't really go wrong for the price. And also, I can't go wrong because I've already got a huge investment in Ryobi tools. So to switch over would be ridiculous. Yeah, for the money, they're great. I would like to try one of the new Ryobis. See if they've fixed their impact. See if they put out more torque or lighter. But it's not worth it buying a new one when this one is working perfectly fine.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, I'd hope you'd consider subscribing. I've got a virtually endless supply of projects I could make videos about. If there's something I can do better, or if there's a type of video you'd like to see more of, leave a comment down below,